Hello, this is Arielle the Inconspicuous Bear, and I'll be narrating the heroic version of the 5-man dungeon Everbloom in Warlords of Draenor from Guardian point of view. Everbloom is probably one of the longest dungeons in Warlords, the longest probably being Uber's, but just like all the rest, I'm not going to cover any of the talents or like anything regarding talents or gear or anything like that, because it's just a heroic 5-man, so you go in pretty much once you hit 100 and start getting stuff. Anywho, the first trash pull is really simple. It's just a few dudes, some spellcasters. There's two spellcasters that crop up fairly commonly in the trash between here and the first boss. One of them uses something called the leaf barrage, something like that. Anyway, it stuns the target and does damage to it over time, kind of like a channeled spell. And the second one is a heal. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There is also some of these flower petal trash. Basically, they're plants that put a stacking dot on you. It's really kind of brutal. All the stacks can be removed with a single dispel, but you need to be careful about it because if you have all these flowers up and the dot gets up really high and you start taking lots of damage because there's so many creatures hitting you with, in addition to the dot damage, it can get pretty brutal. But the upside is they die pretty easy, so it shouldn't really be that big of a deal. But you know, 6 1 happens the other. There's also these like infested orcs or something. I don't know. They don't really do anything. They kind of whirlwind and sit there. So we go ahead and pull this dude. He's one of the casters. Now remember, when the flower petals are not active like they are right now, because they're kind of just floppy and sitting there, they will only activate if you walk over them or hit them with something. So you can avoid a lot of trash by simply just not engaging it. Here, there's that leaf spell I was talking about. It's going to get interrupted. And now here, you can actually skip a good third of the trash. You can actually just ride up this hill here. So we're going to get on our mutts. Ride up this hill. I don't know if this is recorded in beta, so I don't know if that problem was fixed in beta or not. There's a lot of trash that you get to skip by doing this. A lot of really annoying trash, so hopefully it stays in, but if not, yeah, I don't know. So here we have 11 more mobs split between 2 caster types. 2 that do the leaf barrage thing that I mentioned before, and this guy casts a heal. So you want to interrupt the dude that heals and kind of just kill everyone else, pretty much. Let your party members deal with the casters, or the ones with the leaf barrage. And if you just focus on interrupting the heals, everything should be fine. Here, Esoth, in his brilliant wisdom, decided to pull an extra trash pack with Barrage, the Hunter talent, which pulls everything. So I probably yelled at him a little bit, and then just started spamming Thrash, because Thrash in AoE packs is OP. So we just have me spamming Thrash and spamming for emergency regen, because I have infinite rage right now. Just kind of sitting here, hitting all the buttons, spamming Thrash, etc., etc. Alright, so a lot of the trash is going down. Yep, and we're just down the 2 mobs. You can see those little water globule things. Those will be important for when the boss actually activates. Right now you don't really care about them, but when the boss activates, they'll actually start to matter. So we're down to 2 mobs here. Once you actually kill the final trash pack, the boss will spawn. You won't be able to hit it. You'll be able to hit it, but it won't actually. The fight itself won't engage until you hit him, or if you AoE aggro. Okay, so we're pulling the last group here. It's generally a good idea to pull it back away from the boss, so that when the boss aggroes, when the boss activates, you don't immediately aggro him. It's not like the boss is hard, but it's just generally a good thing you want to do if you're a tank. You don't want to force your group to immediately engage in a boss if they have no mana. If you're playing, for example, with a fresh level 100 healer, it's very possible that they will not have mana. Bear in mind that I was going to go somewhere with this. Alright. Bear in mind that this group is pretty much 1414 Heroic Raiders, so we're not exactly your common dungeon group. So we're probably making things look easier than they actually are. Alright, so this boss is a giant tree. The big thing he does is this Parched Breath ability, which is a cone effect that does a lot of damage. So you want to try and save a defensive cooldown, probably Barkskin, for the Parched Breath. Alright. And this is phase 1. This is actually a 2-phase encounter. You see he has an energy bar that decreases over time. Now, when he gets to 0, he goes into this petrified form. He just turns to stone, basically. And these water globules, which you saw before, start emerging from the water and moving towards him. This part's kind of like Elegon. He takes a lot more extra damage while he's in this form. However, once I think 4 or 5, I can't remember, 4 or 5 water globules reach him, he will reactivate and go back into his normal phase. There are some other things that happen, however, they don't really affect you unless someone screws up. If a water globule passes over those brambles that you see there, or if someone steps on them, they will activate an ad that you will need to pick up and tank. However, I don't think we see any of those in this recording. I could be wrong, but I don't recall seeing any. If you have any talents that do, or anything that does knockbacks or stuns or snares, those are really good here, because you can stun lots of ads and make it easier for your DPS to kill the water. And there we have one of those the lasher spawns. Individually, they're pretty harmless. They do some damage, but they're not particularly horrible. And we're going to have a bunch more of them because people are bad. And by a bunch more, I mean 1. So here, because I have an extra 2 extra targets, I use Berserk, and also Survival Instincts because there's a lot of damage incoming. However, this boss is going to die very, very shortly. There's another Parched Breath. Alright, the ad's dead, and the boss is also almost dead. I think at this point we're just going to ignore the water entirely and focus on the boss because he is at like 5% health. So he dies right about now. Excellent. So now what's going to happen is people are going to mount up and ride all the way back to the start of the instance. You just take this path here, and it will take you back to the start of the instance over a hill. Okay. And now we have more trash. This next hallway features essentially 2 different mobs. One is those flower petals that we talked about earlier, and another one is these weird infested orc dude thingies. These guys do a couple of things. One, they do like a frontal cleave that's like a really fast attack, really fast series of attacks on a frontal cleave. And another thing they do is that noxious explosion, which is basically just a poison nova that throws you back. It's really annoying, especially in these close quarters where there's lots of mobs everywhere and you want to avoid pulling a lot of them if at all humanly possible. Usually it's best just to drag them back up the hill. However, here I am being a doofus and like tanking them in the water for some reason. I don't really know why I did this. That was really dumb. And we're going to get the one over there, I think, because somewhere in here Esoth uses Barrage and bad things happen. You can avoid like most of this trash. The trash that we did pull, you do have to kill. But here I'm pretty sure we're going to avoid those flower petals. So we got to pull this dude here. And here he's doing his little cleave thing. Here's the explosion. It's worth noting that the explosion will actually only knock back people in melee range. So if your range, DPS, and healers will not get hit by it. Alright, so that guy's dead. We're going to walk through the middle of these flower petals. And we're going to kill this guy. I think somewhere in here bad things happen. I don't really remember. There's his cleave. Here's the explosion. I discharge it. And he dies. Okay, good. Right. Yeah, okay, so we pulled this pat. You have to kill this pat eventually, but you can pull the pat without pulling the flowers, and I pulled the flowers like an idiot. So that's what happened. I remember now. These flowers are exactly the same as the ones at the start that you have to kill. So they have the stacking poison dot and so forth. So doing things, killing stuff. La 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 la. Alright, so these two guys are going to die. Fantastic. Now we're going to kill this dude. I think that dude is linked to those flowers, if memory serves. I'm not 100% positive, though. So this is just more trash. The next boss is going to be pretty... Well, Daoni commonly references the next boss as her favorite boss in all the dungeons. For me, it's boring, because, I mean, it's just boring. It's fun for a healer, but for a tank, it's really boring. So, we'll be up there in a second. Okay, so we run up to this boss. The next boss is a council fight. So there are 3 dudes, or dudettes, I don't really know which. They're kind of all plants and finicky, weird, that you need to tank and kill. Actually, only the dude in the middle can be tanked. The dude on the right cannot be tanked and just randomly bam casts a single target nuke on people. He also casts some other spell that you don't care about because you're a tank. The dude on the left, the water dude, will cast a heal spell. So he has 2 spells. He has something Tides, which you don't care about. Or you do care about in the sense that it really needs to be dispelled as soon as it goes off onto the target. Or really only needs to be dispelled if it goes on the water dude, which I think is Telu. Because then it makes him cast super fast, which means he can probably get a heal off, which is a pretty big problem. However, I think it's revitalizing waters or something. I don't remember. Anyway, there's one thing you need to interrupt the heal. Interrupting the heal is super important because he'll just heal like he did right there. So, but what it does, I can't remember if this thing's in Heroic or not. I think it's in Heroic, where if you interrupt a spell, he gains a debuff that prevents him from having, or her, I don't know, from having another spell interrupted for a short period of time. So you have to make sure you interrupt the right spell, which is the heal, and not anything else. And you also have to make sure that if they get rapid tides, that it's dispelled almost immediately. Otherwise, you get serious problems. And sometimes they like to cast rapid tides and then a heal right after. So it's pretty great. And by great, I mean not great. Alright, so I think this one's called Telu, and Telu is going to die very shortly. The other one that you care about is the guy that's running around with the Poison Nova. He's basically just one of those big trash mobs that run around and does a cleave and Poison Novas and stuff like that. The one thing he does differently is he will randomly charge a person. I think he charges the furthest person away, and he will also do a grip if you are too far away from him. When he does it, or too far away from his main threat target. Usually only happens after a charge, though. Alright. So in this guy, you just basically do nothing. Someone else will be in charge of interrupting the spell on this guy. I think it's like some sort of armor thing. It's really bad. Well, not really bad. It's just moderately irritating. Okay, and here we go. And this guy's the only one up, and he's pretty trivial. So you just kind of sit here and tank him, and it's useful to keep your back against a wall once you're able to, so that you don't get knocked too far back during the Poison Nova. Running away, coming back. This guy probably has the most health and is really kind of irritating. In terms of cooldown usage, there isn't really anything particularly to use cooldowns for. You might want to consider it at the start of the fight. use offensive cooldowns at the start of the fight because it's the hardest part. Defensive ones, there's nothing really specific you have to watch out for, so kind of use them on an ad hoc basis if you need them. Alright, and here right now we're going to go kill the spider. Spider's a short distance away. Get on my invincible mount that I have because beta. And then we're going to go to the spider. Alright, so I'm going to drag this spider slowly down the cave because I dislike wasting time. I like to be efficient. You don't really have to worry about anything tank specific for this trash mob. It's just a trash mob. Okay. And spider dies. Excellent. So what happens is you get down into this cave. This is the optional spider boss. It's not part of completing the dungeon. You can do it if you want. You don't see why you wouldn't, because it's an easy boss, easy loot. So you come down here. You'll face three or four waves of spiders. None of these you particularly care about, just AoE them. I mean, doesn't really matter. If you can, try and drag them close to the spider, like the big spider. So the boss drops down from the roof and does an AoE like cleave that hurts the ads a lot. If you manage to get them to her before she does it. So, I mean, you can try. It's not going to make or break anything. It barely even saves you any time. So don't even like worry about it at all. It's just kind of something fun that you can do. Alright, and you see these kind of deformed orcs. They're actually going to spawn throughout the fight as well. And if the spider eats one of them, she will heal, which is not good. So the easiest way to do it is if they spawn far away, have someone CC them. They're susceptible to all CC that affects humanoids. So things like sheep, hex, trap, that sort of thing. CC them far away, and then they won't get close enough for the spider to trigger to eat them. Additionally, they also drink up the gas pools that you see there, and become empowered and really annoying. So try to prevent them from doing that if possible. This should be the last wave of spiders. Yep. There we go. Okay. Boss comes down. There isn't really a good spot to put the spider because the ad spawns are completely random. So kind of just put her where there's no gas for melee damage. That's really the only thing you can do. Now, if you are unable to CC the orc ad prior to it becoming within range of the boss, you're going to have to kill it. So make sure that someone is taking care of the callouts on that. And here you can see the spider trying to eat the orc. I don't know if we actually killed this one. No, we did not. And you see she just healed for like 35% of her health or something. So, you can see the importance of killing the orcs. You can probably DPS through it. Well, actually, I know you can DPS through it. But, like, as in you can just DPS the boss, and then eventually you'll kill her low enough that it won't matter. But, I mean, it's always better to not have to worry about that. So here, I think we actually kill this one because we're not bad. Yep. And that's the entire fight. You just repeat that until the boss is dead. Oh, one last feeding. And now we're just going to kill the boss. And fruits. The next boss is really annoying. The trash used to be super bad, but it's been toned down a lot. You will face a bunch of mages that will spawn a clone of themselves when they die, so you essentially have to kill them twice. It's really, really annoying. But that gotta do what has to be done, right? So we get out of the cave, mount up, go to the next trash. And we start pulling these mages. The frost mages are very trivial. They will do two things. They will frostbolt, and they will do this like pattern on the ground that will stun. Yeah, so you can see it there. It's like a pattern on the ground that will stun people if they're caught on it. You can interrupt all the spells. So interrupt, stun, knockback, those all work. Make sure you're doing that. More so on the fire one. You can see the fire one in the back there. Fire ones cast Dragon's Breath, and it's really, really bad. Actually, these are two ice ones. Never mind. Anywho, so there's fire, ice, and arcane. Ice ones are trivial. The arcane ones are also trivial. They will just cast Arcane Blast and then a black hole spell, which is pretty meaningless. The fire ones are the worst. Fire ones have a Dragon's Breath that will not only disorient you, but because their Dragon's Breath is a channel, it will repeatedly hit you and disorient you if it hits you once. So it's really bad. So make sure you don't get hit by Dragon's Breath. You can either interrupt it or just run away. And you can see here we're killing an Arcane Mage. You'll also see that these green circles on the ground. There's things falling from the sky that impact there and will do damage, and I think they put you to sleep if you get hit by them. So don't get hit by them. You can see here what happens with Dragon's Breath. I got hit once, and it was bad. So yeah, Dragon's Breath is horrible because it hits you multiple times and keeps you disoriented for around 6 seconds, which is pretty bad. I believe these three mages, the last three, are all linked together. I mean, again, it doesn't really matter. As long as you deal with the fire one, the other two are pretty meaningless. It's worth noting that the spore things that fall from the sky will also continue throughout the boss encounter. So make sure that you're paying attention to where you're standing so you don't get hit by them, because getting hit by them in the middle of the boss encounter can be quite deadly. If certain other things are also going off at the same time. Alright, so just gonna finish off these spore images. And we'll be good to go. One more spore image. Okay, this next boss has 3 phases. That goes Fire, Ice, Arcane. In the Fire phase, she will chain cast Fireball on you, which can be interrupted, and she will also she also puts down these little fire plants. They look like Firebloom from Cataclysm, the Firebloom plants. And every so often, she will do an emote that will cause these fire plants to explode. And they will do basically a halo effect along the ground. How you avoid this is you jump over it, because it's a really big circle, so you won't necessarily be able to outrange it all the time. Now, periodically, she will cast a spell on herself called Parasitic Growth. This spell, when it goes off, will increase her or decrease her cast speed and increase her damage. So she gets a haste and a damage buff every time it goes off. It's not the end of the. It's not actually obviously not bad. However, you need to be able to figure out how many stacks you can take before transitioning into the next phase. I usually go with 2 to 3 stacks depending on my healer. However, since all my healers are extremely good, I usually end up going 3 and sometimes even 4 stacks if I'm feeling ambitious, or want cooldowns, or I have cooldowns to use. In Ice phase, she will cast Frostbolt, and this Blizzard spell. Blizzard does a lot of damage if you stand in it. It's like a pretty obvious Blizzard. And she will chain cast Frostbolt onto you. Also remember that every time she transitions into a new phase, a spore image, like from the trash, will spawn of the element that you just transitioned from. So when you transition from fire to ice, she will spawn a fire image. When you transition from ice to arcane, she will spawn an ice image. Now, the problem is, these images have way more health than the boss and cannot be killed, so essentially they're just extra tank damage. The idea in this encounter is to sit her in fire for as long as humanly possible, so you have less damage ramping up over time. How you transition the boss is you interrupt parasitic growth. I think I mentioned that earlier. Ideally, the tank would be the one dictating when to interrupt. Therefore, the tank would be the only person interrupting parasitic growth. If that's all humanly possible, it's definitely desirable, because transitioning early can be very bad, especially if someone accidentally transitions into Arcane Phase, which is essentially chain casting Arcane Explosion over and over and over and over again, which hits the entire party for lots of damage, which is really, 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 really bad, and probably can't even be healed through for a very long time. So you need to make sure that only those transitions as dictated by the tank are happening, and try to avoid Arcane Phase if at all possible. We just had a couple more pieces of caster trash, and now we're engaging the last boss. This boss is... I don't really know what to say about this boss. He doesn't really do anything. I don't know. He'll randomly trap people in roots, but you're the tank, so you don't care about that. The only thing you really care about is that he randomly spawns ads. The most dangerous ones... actually, these guys aren't dangerous. They're just little plants. There are several kinds of ads that can spawn. Those ones are harmless. He will also periodically do this Tranquility spell where there's lots of file piles on the ground. If there's ads up, try to avoid having to run around and do them, because the mages will cast, so the NPC mages around, their AoE spells are like a gazillion times better than anything your party has. So if you have ads up during the Tranquility phase for some reason, you don't really want to move the ads around, because then maybe they don't get hit by the AoE spells and they don't die, and that's just really annoying. So the second kind of ad he spawns is this big tree, and again the big tree is relatively harmless, so just ignore it. I mean, you need to get aggro on it, but whatever. The really, 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 really harmful ones are when he spawns a group of tiny ads, because those put a stacking dot on you that really, 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 really hurts. So you might want to consider saving a cooldown for those. Otherwise, these little Hydra things and the tree aren't that big of a deal. They're actually pretty meaningless, and they almost get one shot by the mages. So whatever. And if your party fails to squish all of the flowers, a flower ad will spawn, which is kind of meh. Here I'm helping out on the roots because... and the boss is about to die. There we go, boss dead. GG. Thanks for watching this video. Oh, no, not dead yet. So close. There's the little ads I was talking about. They only spawned at the very end of the encounter for us because we killed them fast. But those little ads are really nasty, and you should probably save a cooldown for them. Anywho, boss dead, GG. Thank you for watching this video. Good luck in Warlords of Draenor.